So whatever y'all are talking about, be sure that it's appropriate content because we're going live now, right now.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah, we are
people,
live with 9
yeah.
people watching already. So they're impatient. They're ready. They're ready to get the show on the road, right?
Oh,
They rightly guessed at the intoxication levels.
Look.
Oh, Dave, what are you doing at home on your day off? You're just getting crunk, I guess. But no, this is a historic moment for Tex-Trek. We have Father 8 and Starfleet Boy in the same room for the first time ever. So,
very cool.
Thus disproving many a theory that you were the same person.
Yeah. That has all been disproven. That is all non-canon now.
Well, I mean, we were.
It's all done with green screen.
It's true. We were a product of fractal neuronic cloning, so you know.
Goodness.
There you go. The truth is out there.
But yeah, that's exciting. It's good to see y'all in one place. Hopefully things are going good.
Yeah, hopefully we get to do this again soon in April. But for now, we are going to be talking about this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. We have a Tex-Trek live podcast to do, and the audio and video quality might be a little off because we are using the mobile emitter like the Doctor on Voyager. We are doing this on the road. I'm traveling. I'm currently in Florida waiting the Star Trek cruise, but the show must go on, right?
Florida's like Deep Space 200.
247.
247. We don't get very good subspace out here.
We're going to do the best we can, though, so please bear with us. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about this episode, I'm sure. So let's just go ahead and get the show on the road. I'm Fathery.
I'm Starfleet Boy.
This is Dave.
This is Brian.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for this 179th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, Florida, where we take a deep look at Star Trek old and new and proud members of the TrekSphere network.
Yes, and today we are talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 10, The Galactic Barrier, written by Cofell Saunders and directed by Deborah Kampmeier. Sorry if I said that wrong.
Or Kampmeier.
Kampmeier. Maybe
Yeah.
it's Kampmeier. Yeah, Deborah Kampmeier. Sorry, Deborah. But this is really historic because this is the first piece of internet content ever made with Starfleet Boy and Fathery of Tex-Trek together in the same room at the same time.
We crossed over before Star Trek did the big crossover. It's cool.
Yeah. So
and there's a bigger one coming.
We beat Alex Kurtzman to the big crossover event he's been promising all of us. But yeah, this is real. It's happening, and if you're listening to this later, the audio quality might not be there. The video quality might be a little weird. We don't know how the hotel Wi-Fi is going to hold up here in sunny Orlando, Florida. But this is the best we can do, and we hope you enjoy.
You need to add Starfleet Boy to the little tag there under your faces.
So you're Fathery and Starfleet Boy?
Yes.
I think so too.
Yes.
I think
Otherwise, we won't believe you're really together.
That's right.
Just a special effect if you don't actually have both names there.
Yeah, that's pretty easy to do. We can make that little modification.
Make it so.
But yeah, and we're happy to have our regular co-hosts Brian and Dave here as well, so it helps add some stability and kind of grounds the entire show.
Yep.
So it's not full on crazy cray crossover territory, right?
And when they want a show ground to a halt, they call us.
And y'all are together, but not in the same place.
That's right. That's right.
They're within 10 miles of each other.
Yeah.
Don't dox them, Father. Don't dox them.
Oh, okay. I will give you the exact GPS coordinates if you want to call in a drone strike.
Our many enemies will know where we are.
No, this should be a fun experience. We have a new episode of Discovery to talk about. That's always something. And just real quick, we're each going to give our own opinions on this episode. Before we do that, though, just a little bit of housekeeping. I just want to remind everyone next week is the premiere of... What is it? Is it the new Babylon 5 reboot that JMS was working on?
Or something
or
Star Trek Pickard, I think.
Oh, Pickard.
Pickard.
No, wait. That sounds like something.
Say Mechanical Rice Pickard.
Star Trek Picard Season 2 premieres next week. So there's going to be a Tex-Trek double header next Friday if you watch us live, or otherwise you can listen to the show on Monday, but we will be discussing the Season 2 premiere of Star Trek Picard, along with Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 11, and that will actually be hosted by none other than Starfleet Boy. So, listen to that. It's going to drop live Friday, and then you can listen to the podcast later. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun because we're talking about Discovery and Picard. And I won't be available for that because I'll be at sea on the Star Trek cruise.
We'll be cruising.
Starfleet Boy, that's a lot to hold on to for your jumping in guest shot.
I know, a doubleheader.
I'm gonna. I hope he's not a Jellicoe.
No, he's like Chris Pine Kirk. He goes straight from "Hello, I'm new here" to "I'm in charge."
There you go. That's
in 1 week.
Cadet to captain.
Yes.
In a few hours. It's great.
I like this ship. It's exciting.
It's exciting.
Well, there you go. So that's going to be fun to look forward to. And please, if you're listening to us, if you're watching us, give us a subscribe to the Tex-Trek channel. We're trying to pick up as many subscribers as possible. We're going to have a lot of Star Trek to talk about in the coming year with not only Picard and Discovery, but we got Strange New Worlds. We got more Lower Decks coming. We have more Prodigy coming. It's going to be a lot, and the more subscribers we have, the easier it is to talk about. And we will also be providing all of this coverage on our podcast outlets as well. In the meantime, though, we have this new episode of Star Trek Discovery, The Galactic Barrier, to talk about. That was one written by Anne Cofell Saunders and directed by Deborah Kampmeier. In a moment, we're each going to give our opening statement, kind of express our broad feelings on the episode, but before we do that, I just want to kind of summarize the episode by talking about the official synopsis, and then I'll expand on that with spoilers in order to recap it. But the official synopsis is: Captain Burnham and her crew must go where few have gone before, beyond the Galactic Barrier. Meanwhile, Book learns the truth of what drives Ruon Tarka. Yeah, so basically, Burnham and her people go beyond the barrier. Nothing really happens there other than they learn that Earth and Navarre are in danger of the DMA. And Book learns the truth behind. Tarka learns about his friend, or maybe more than friend, or boyfriend, or
I think we can just say intimate friend.
Intimate friend. There's definitely a strong intimacy. That's going to be a lot of fun to talk about and try to parse. But so we get to see a continuation on that side of things as well. Just to go with opening statements, let's start with Brian, and then we'll work our way around the room. But Brian, how did you feel about this episode? What was your general takeaway on the Galactic Barrier?
I liked it. It was another good example of why I love Discovery, with it balancing some science and some science fiction and a bunch of and some thought-provoking stuff, along with some emotional heart. And when it's doing it right, playing it off with a great deal my emotional awareness, intelligence, emotional intelligence. And it did all of those things reasonably well, as they have been doing this season. I have to admit, I had trouble getting all that emotionally worked up by the Tarka Oros stuff. Oros stuff. I clearly was supposed to, but I was kind of like, I feel like I know where this is. All these flashbacks are going, and I feel like and I'm having trouble getting emotionally involved, and the intellectual revelations seem few and far between for each of these flashbacks. I felt kind of like I'd seen this particular story before. I did, however, find myself nerding, gushing when we brought the Galactic Barrier into things in a purely fan service way that was entirely nostalgia driven, and I was kind of ashamed of myself for getting so excited for seeing the Great Barrier, but I still enjoyed it. So yeah, I don't know if I have any big. They continue to push the honesty is the best policy theme a bit in this one, which I noticed, and I guess it's, it shows everyone in these respective ships, the book ship and the Discovery, bonding together for the coming trials. So,
okay. Dave, what about you? How did you feel about the Galactic Barrier?
So after 3 episodes of gritting my teeth, I kind of dug this episode. I feel like as we in the sort of structure that Discovery uses, the closer you get to the big reveals, the more it can kind of feel like it's dragging its feet on its way getting there. And arguably, this was an episode that was kind of dragging its feet. We keep on tiptoeing up to, what do these aliens look like? What's their deal? So we get a backstory for essentially a bad guy, an antagonist type character in Tarka. And I felt like that worked in a pretty classic Star Trek way. Even though I feel like I've seen elements of this before. I've seen people, I've seen O'Brien imprisoned before. I've seen characters move from disliking each other to either very strong affection or maybe love before in Star Trek. But I thought they handled it well, and I liked all of those scenes. I think I've mentioned in the past that I feel like Tarka is a kind of a good, lively character, even if he's an asshole. And I've sort of been liking his screen presence a little bit more than some of the principals in the last few episodes. So, yeah, I was down for more of him. I think that continued the trend of me liking him on screen, even if he is not nearly the wholesome dude of the rest of the Disco crew. I like that crossing the Galactic Barrier was this really big to-do. Its history in Star Trek makes that meant that I think they had something to live up to, and I thought they did a really good job with it. A little techno-babbly, but otherwise a good job. I felt like there was some of the side stories, of the sort of mutual admiration society between Admiral Vance and Rillick, is it? Mm-hmm. And Saru sort of tiptoeing up still to oh gosh, I'm going to forget her name.
President Tarina.
President Tarina. Were, I don't know, they felt a little almost perfunctory to me. And so I liked the Tarka and Oros kind of, I felt like upstaged them for better or worse. But anyway, that's I liked the episode. I enjoyed it. Some minor complaints here and there, but it was a good time for me.
Cool. Well, Starfleet boy, please let us know your feelings on the Galactic Barrier.
I just want to fulfill Arthur's wish and say, just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of the DMA.
Yes, there was a Gilligan's Island reference, which isn't the first connective tissue between Star Trek and Gilligan's Island. They actually reused the costume from
the Gorn
Cat's Paw.
The Cat's Paw costume. You're right.
Yeah,
100%.
that showed up on Gilligan's Island.
That's right.
But yeah, so there's some crossover going on here.
Well, I really liked this episode. It was a lot of fun. I think it came out at a really poignant moment. I mean, there's just a lot going on in real life, and so I kind of had that like view of it, and it was just it was a good episode. I thought one of the things I love about Star Trek is that whenever it kind of leans in on stories of friendship and the spirit of friendship and like people like looking past their differences or even like learning to celebrate differences, and I feel like this episode really gave us a lot of that. And plus the anticipation for the DMA is driving me nuts. I want to know. I mean the 10C rather, I should say. I want to know already. I feel like we're not going to even see them next episode because they got to go to this planet. So they're really stretching it out. I especially tuned into the Burnham Rillick thing. I really thought that was good chemistry between them, and just I like the way that they finally came to this sort of like understanding or consensus, and even admitted that they like each other. So that was cool. And yeah, the actual Great Barrier itself was exciting as a Trekkie because we haven't seen it, I guess, since the original series, right?
There was that thing in Star Trek V, which was in the wrong place,
Well,
but
that's the
that's
sorry. I
Great
meant
Barrier.
I meant the Galactic
the Great
Barrier. I did
Galactic
say
Barrier.
no, but Brian heard the Great Barrier because I did say it. But I meant the Galactic Barrier.
yeah.
We hadn't seen
Yeah,
that. since,
they're two different memory alpha
yeah,
pages. Right?
yeah,
We can all agree
exactly,
on that,
exactly.
so.
It's true. So yeah, the Galactic Barrier was cool. I love the reimagining of it. I was looking for those strange energies.
Yeah, Star Trek Lower Decks had the strange energies.
So yeah, so it was pretty cool. All in all, a really top-notch episode for me. I just enjoyed the heck out of it.
Well, cool. I mean, for me, so much of what Star Trek Discovery is doing right now is going really good. But I can't help but feel that some of it is being squandered on the storyline that's taking the entire season to tell. And the whole plot thread with the 10C, with the DMA, it's starting to become more and more tiring the longer they drag that out. And I think that might be a little bit more just because I am getting that fatigue of the big doomsday scenario stories, the end of the galaxy, whatever. So, and I don't like mentioning that too much as a criticism because I feel like that gets brought up so much in Star Trek talk right now, and I kind of feel like beating a dead horse. But I just want to say that there is a lot in this episode that I do enjoy. We got more stuff with Saru and Tarina. We got more stuff with Stamets and Adira. This episode took a little bit of a break away from the book Burnham relationship, and I really liked that relationship, and I kind of liked it being the central focus of the last 3 episodes, but 3 episodes is a lot, so I was totally okay with bringing some of the other characters back into the spotlight this week. And I know the Galactic Barrier is really dangerous, but I guess I was never really that aware of just how exactly dangerous it is until this week when it's like it will destroy a 32nd century starship, going through it. But
Yeah.
they kind of did explain there's an explanation in the episode. They're like, oh, like the negative energy is stronger in this part of the barrier than we thought. So,
Right.
okay, this is like the thick part. Maybe in the original series, we're going through the thin part. So, okay, I can roll with that. But it did allow the episode to have some really neat visual spectacle. I cannot, overstate how incredible the visual effects have been in this show. And it also allowed, on a more substantial level, a bit of a suspenseful sequence, so we have that substance in there with some suspense. I liked that. But yeah, and then in the B story with Tarka and Book, we got that backstory stuff. I enjoyed that. I liked seeing more of what Tarka had gone through, and I thought those flashback scenes were pretty powerful. So I was worried there would not be enough story though after 11 episodes, and I'm still kind of worried about that. After 10. This is episode 10, right?
10, yeah,
So after
episode
10
10.
episodes, I'm kind of worried there's not enough story left. I mean, they're very much hinting they're meeting the 10C soon. So
Soon.
how long can we draw that out we still have 3 more episodes to milk out of the season. That's been a concern of mine for a while. How are they going to squeeze 13 episodes out of the season?
Well, they're going to go to that moon next week, and then the week after that, we get to meet the aliens.
And then the one following it will be a denouement kind of episode.
Yeah, then we'll wrap everything up. And
I'm starting to have Enterprise Season 3 vibes, where I kind of lost interest about 75% of the way through the season-long story arc. So I'm like, this is starting to feel a lot like how I felt this time of year back in 2003. So it feels like a return to that. We had like crazy weird wars going on then with America invading Iraq. So it's the exact same. It's like
it is kind of
all of
crazy.
this has happened before and will happen again.
Wow.
Whoa.
That was a little promo for our Battlestar Galactica podcast.
Yeah. See, I guess I feel that that the padding was everything leading up to this episode. And that this episode, we're actually going there. We're finally in the bus and on the way. And it feels like finally things are moving. So it actually feels like, okay, finally we can stop kind of meandering about, picking up clues, and just we're on our way now. Things are actually moving. So for me, it rejuvenated my energy.
They're still not at the aliens, though.
Yeah, but... there's very much.
Show me the aliens.
I mean, I don't even care that much about like the 10C, like what they look like or anything like that. Like, I'm not that interested in them. I guess I'm more concerned about like their effect on the galaxy. But yeah, I'm starting to feel like this is like a comic book series that has been stretched out over too many issues. Like, they're really trying to reach like that 6-issue mark or that 12-issue mark because they're worried about like selling it in collection. Or maybe like playing in. I know like Dave and Brian, they love like the RPG game comparisons. Like maybe playing like an RPG game where it's like, okay, you're gonna spend like this whole session, you're gonna spend like 4 hours like trying to like run through this hallway, and then like nothing else happens, and it's very frustrating if you're like the player and not the GM.
Depending on the system you're playing, 4 hours to fight your way through a hallway full of bad guys is possible. Some systems are incredibly meticulous and slow in combat.
For me as a casual player, whatever system I'm playing, I am not going to have a good time if that happens. Just FYI.
Fathery, I hate to say it, but I don't think you could be considered a casual player of Star Trek. But I know I take your point though, and I do think that this goes to the thing we've talked about really from the very beginning of just Discovery and Trek's relationship with episodic versus serial format and big bad villains and world-threatening villains, and I find that it's not Trek's forte. It's frustrating to me too.
Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. Let's talk about the opening. We start off with that big meeting at Starfleet HQ where they're all looking at all the different communicators and translators, and then a little bit of political stuff. They say goodbye to Bryce, the communications officer. I'm not sure if anyone really is going to miss him because he didn't get much to do on the show, but whatever. We get the Ruon Tarka moment where she kind of brushes off his advance onto her. We get a little bit of conversation between Rillick and Burnham, and then, we get the mission to go cross the barrier. What did y'all think about, let's start with that opening moment where Kovic gives a Gilligan's Island reference about the 3-hour tour.
Is that supposed to be a clue about what's up with him? Is he from like the 20th century? Are we going to find out?
So.
No, because I feel like in Calypso, I feel like it's back in vogue in this time, because in Calypso they were watching Betty Boop, so I feel like...
Yeah, he's supposed to have like a weird like fascination on like historical stuff, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I hate to say it, but couldn't he have picked a good show?
like I Dream of Jeannie, maybe?
I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke Show.
Very true. It's true.
I guess
Cheers would have been a good reference.
What was more interesting is that Kovic said there's more urgent matters he needs to go attend to. And so I don't know, is that setting up something that's going to come in the next couple of episodes? Or is that setting
or
up
is it the next season
5? Yeah.
I feel like it could be season 5. That was my sort of guess. or it's a Deus Ex Machina that will save them from the 10C aliens.
It's starting to sound like it could be a little bit of a Deus Ex Machina because Admiral Vance's transmission gets cut off later, and we were supposed to get some kind of important intel.
Yes.
So who knows?
Also, Kovich has discovered the 10C is vulnerable to salt. You might need to know that.
Okay. I thought maybe he found out that they watched like a lot of Nick at Night, and maybe. Although I feel like kind of mentioning Nick at Night in 2022, like maybe like Nick at Night is old school at this point. Like, do people even know what Nick at Night is in the streaming age?
Yeah, I don't think they do.
There's no more of that.
Nickelodeon's
still on TV.
Certainly, Gilligan's Island is going to be more iconic and last longer than Nick at Night is going to.
Probably true.
I mean, that show was rerun everywhere on the planet. Somebody who did the math once and figured that there's a Gilligan's Island showing somewhere on the earth at any given time. I don't know if that's still true, but it was a few decades
This is why we can't have
that.
Nice things.
By the way, really hates it, apparently.
I do. I watched it as a kid. Kovich, I still find it kind of weird and weirdly frustrating that Kovich is sort of as enigmatic as he is and as core to the Federation or Starfleet hierarchy as he is. I don't know quite what they gain by keeping him enigmatic and not just go ahead and saying what his deal is.
I think they told us a couple episodes ago that he's a consultant.
Yeah. Dave, I think what they gain is that whatever they needed the story to do, like if they need like Tilly to go be an instructor at Starfleet Academy, then they can have Kovich being like, you know, what we really need at the Academy is some people who understand the old school values of the Federation, and you being from the 23rd century, you can give us that. Or here he can be like, you know, I'm this very well intelligent man, and I know all about xenolinguistics, and I am going to present to you Dr. Harai, who knows all these.
So you're saying he's a cheap plot device? Is that what I'm hearing?
He is advantageous for the writers to keep ambiguous.
Dave,
I get what it's advantageous for the writers, but it doesn't fulfill me as a viewer.
As an audience member, you're left disappointed.
That said, I like the characterization of him. I'm looking at the comments. It seems like people like him, and there's at least somebody who just said that he liked the enigmatic Kovich, and I think that's not uncommon. I think a lot of people do. But to me, it's sort of a little, I don't know, self-satisfied. It's a little overly cutesy for Trek to me, maybe.
Did Guinan drive you nuts as well?
At the time, yes. Although I like Guinan, they were pretty much always clear on what her deal was, like who she was.
But she was a convenience. She was a convenience for the next generation writers. They could easily have Guinan say like, well, 200 years ago, I saw this on this planet, and blah, 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 blah.
But I knew that she was an alien that was long-lived and was prized because of her wisdom and worked as a bartender and was sought for the general same services as a bartender, but like the captain would seek her out too. That's actually a pretty straightforward concept, and I think I know all the basics on her.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
By the way, I just want to say that both Guinan and Kovich are not cheap plot devices; they're expensive plot devices.
Everyone loves Whoopi. Well, I should take that back.
Lots of people love.
Whoopi Goldberg. She's mortal. She's made mistakes.
Yeah.
I don't endorse everything she said, and I'm sure the same thing is probably true. Well, I feel like I'm.
Whatever,
putting them down, but
David
Cronenberg is also another mortal human being
who's beloved by many.
Who's beloved by many people,
or at least admired.
Yeah, or at least admired.
For all the body horror fans out there in the Trek audience,
you know, he saw season 1 of Discovery when the Glenn had the twisted up people, and he was probably like, "I want to be on that show."
Yeah. Finally, a Star Trek for me.
Yeah, he was like.
It was kind of his seeing Nichelle Nichols on Star Trek moment, you know. Oh yes, I want to be on that show.
What came back didn't live long. I'm in.
Yeah. Well, he was like, we didn't get to see it. We didn't get to see it.
But the other
Fuck this movies.
the other thing that stood out to me in the opening of this episode was Rillick and Admiral Vance, and I have to agree with what Brian said a couple of weeks ago when he said Vance is like the best admiral we've ever gotten on a Star Trek show,
other than Admiral Picard, maybe.
I think of this guy from season 3. Yeah, I mean, I like Picard too. I like Admiral Kirk. I like Admiral Kirk a lot.
But here's a question though: like Admiral Picard, Admiral Kirk, we never much saw them in the context of doing Admiral shit.
Yeah, it's true.
And so I think
they're about like becoming more proactive captains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Vance is the admiral, and he's the guy we saw in season 3 where he's like, I have 1,000 problems on my desk. Maybe I can solve like 70 of them. I'm like constantly fatigued. He reminds me a lot of Gary Oldman's Commissioner Jim Gordon from Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. It's just like, you know, I'm like the strained dude. I'm this fatigued dude. I'm constantly trying to address all these major problems. And then here we get to see more of that side of Vance, where the president is like, I'm going on this dangerous mission, but I know that you will get us through whatever troubles we have because you've always done that before. I feel sorry for the dude. I feel like he's like overburdened.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's in a really rough time. It does seem like he's able to carry himself with a little bit of... He can have normal conversations. He isn't always in a panic or whatever. You know, like he can talk to Burnham in a kind of quiet conversation or tell an anecdote about himself or something. So, yeah, I think Vance is easily the best admiral
He
we've
does
seen.
seem to be able to keep himself up, or at least project that when he's interacting with others.
Right,
He can make
right.
little
Yeah,
jokes. He can smile. You know, you don't get the idea that he's like keeps opening a drawer in his desk and looking longingly at a gun. You know.
Right. He may go home and do a lot of drugs, but he's at work.
He has like a wife and a daughter.
Yeah, that's true.
That he ignores in favor of the drugs, but at work he's keeping it together. He's as best he can.
Okay. But I like Vance. I feel sorry for him.
Sure.
I want to help him. I want to be like.
You want to be his vice
It's
admiral.
okay, bro. I'll take it from here.
Yeah,
Well, maybe if we can get a season that's not a world, an existential threat to Starfleet, he can kind of relax a little bit.
He can go on vacation.
Yeah.
Let's get Vance a vacation.
They're going to bring next season. The Tribbles are going to come back, and it's going to be a season-long dealing with Tribble infestation.
We were talking about that before about how the 10C is going to be revealed to be Edward from the Trouble with Edward. He's gonna-
Yes,
the Tribble Emperor.
Tribble
we're
mega
already
colony.
getting a Tribble story.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, though, talking about the 10C. Let's talk about the crossing of the barrier that the Discovery has to do when they... Apparently the mycelial network doesn't go everywhere in the universe. It's limited to the galaxy, but it can get you pretty close to the edge. 9 light years, but that's still pretty good by Star Trek standards.
I did wonder, why didn't they just pick up the delegates on the way? It would have added an extra hour.
Yeah, spore drive everywhere.
Yeah, just bump, pick everyone up, and off you go. So it didn't seem like it'd be that big of a deal, given that there isn't we have to be there within an hour kind of time.
Yeah, Burnham said we have 2 hours, which kind of seems like a long time, when you're talking about this, the level of threat that they have here. But she wanted to give everyone the opportunity to say goodbye to their family.
Yeah, if you
we
have
didn't get to
time
think
for
about
that-
it, Tilly.
Yeah, if you have time for people to go say goodbye, then you absolutely have time to pick up the delegates.
Yeah, they clearly wanted to force a situation where Nadoye, right? The Earth General lady
Has to go on, and Tarina also.
and Tarina has to go on.
Yeah.
The president is the easiest one to accept. She wanted to be there.
Right.
She's there by her own agency, but everyone else is kind of forced by the contrivance.
I did appreciate all the 2 hours, the prep time we took for this mission. It gave the mission much more weight. So much of Discovery is, oh, look, there's a problem. Spore drive, boom, there we are, right in the middle of it, on with the narrative. And that's fun and it's exciting and it makes Discovery feel different than other Star Trek, which is cool. But it is kind of nice for this big important voyage to actually have some weight to the preparation and stuff. Like somebody said, some director said the making of a great battle in a movie is like 40% of it is just how you show everyone getting ready for the battle to build it. And we got to see some of everyone getting ready for this mission. And to some degree, we saw it last week, even people getting ready for this mission.
Which is another issue. I think a lot of this, it could have been shortened. I don't know if we need to stretch this episode out to 13 episodes, which is probably a criticism I'll carry into the next couple of weeks. But I do like seeing the slower moments where they are preparing for the danger and then seeing the danger, and that does certainly gives it more weight when we see them actually crossing the barrier and the weird distortion, the visual distortion that they put on the ships to remind you that they're in danger.
I may be a heartless person. Let me preface this by saying it may be heartless.
Wow,
but I've watched a lot of TV shows that do the sort of the connection before the big scene. I specifically remember one of those big end scenes in Buffy. What was the one, Fathery, where Willow connected with that lover of hers, and it was right before. It was like last few seasons.
In season 7.
Last season,
was
season
it
7.
Post Terra.
I think so. It was post Terra for sure.
Yeah.
You see a lot of sort of intimate moments between characters, knowing that they might be going off to die later, and I think that it was solidly done, but I felt like they're almost it's so weird. Discovery's crew is so broadly supportive of each other that it felt a little bit like spinning wheels to see them being supportive and stuff at length. And I was like, get back to Oros and Tarka. There's some more chemistry and sparks going on there. I liked that better. I was like, less Discovery and more of these random side characters.
And you also have Reese saying, I think it's cool we're on the frontier, and Saru being like, of course, it's always cool to be on the frontier.
I think if I were if the 10C threat loomed and the anomaly and all that, I don't know if it'd feel as cool then.
What if the 10C are watching that and they're like, Jesus, they're just cringing, and they're just like, Jesus Christ, they think this is cool to come outside their galaxy to come meet us?
Watch, the 10C are going to be those aliens from the Explorers movie, and they're going to have TVs everywhere with shows from everything from all across the galaxy.
Do the Joe Dante satirical thing.
But again, with my larger criticism of the show being stretched out over too many episodes, and I'm actually excited for season 5 to only be a 10-episode season. I'm very curious how that works for Star Trek Discovery. But I think, in theory, on paper, you could do a really cool episode. The whole episode is crossing the barrier, and the barrier is dangerous and scary, but here we go. Okay, but we have these entire scenes about oh my god, this is so cool, this is so eventful, we're out on the frontier, and then you have entire scenes of oh my god, the visual spectrum has changed and everything looks different now, and we have to go from this bubble to this bubble and all these obstacles on top of each other. It really feels like they were just kind of padding the episode, which is something I said either last week or the week before, and I find it a little frustrating.
I think it'll only be frustrating for me upon rewatch, because right now I'm in the hype and I'm anticipating, but that is the problem with some of these mystery box things. Once you know it, it's it's not as you're the things that they're doing to build up to this no longer hold the weight. However, I do think that this season has the most other stuff to keep me interested. I will be interested to rewatch, because for example, the Burn season, I hardly rewatch it. I just go back to a couple episodes.
3.
Yeah, season 3.
Because it's happened.
Yeah, I know.
Last year.
Yeah,
right?
But I feel like I just go back to my favorite.
No, that was in 2020.
2020, right? Yeah.
The years are strange now with
they are
COVID time.
But it's once you know the mystery, it's you're kind of that is a problem with this kind of format, I think. But at the same time,
right, once you know the mystery, you're there to just either watch particular dramatic moments or see how the characters bounce off of each other.
Right, to see stuff you missed, in other words.
But they do put a large emphasis, for me, the voyage of Discovery for season 3 and 4 has been largely seeing how the characters respond to these problems
Mhm,
rather than caring too much about what the tech DMC 10C whatever, how all of that turns out to be.
And I will say, initially, I was disappointed with the Burn reveal. However, upon watching it again, I kind of like saw that I missed a lot of key things here and there, and it made it was less dramatic or less weird to me after that. So
yeah, I've learned to accept it, I guess, as time has gone on. But it might be just Stockholm syndrome at this point.
I'm looking at our comments, and I see a lot of people speculating on whether Rillick is going to die, and I feel like there's. That's a possibility. It's certainly anybody, in this sort of setting that could be out there. I feel like Tarka doing some sort of sacrificial thing would also be, kind of an obvious on the table thing.
Yeah.
Book, maybe. Do y'all think that they're going to surprise us? Does anybody have any sense on those?
I would love if they did something like that, and if they did it well, because it would give the episode more weight, I think. 4 seasons in, Discovery is probably starting to feel a bit safe, right? Like, they might need to do something a little drastic.
I kind of feel like I'd like Rillick to live just because it's such an obvious thing to do to kill her. But Tarka and even Book, well, I'll miss Book, and it'll hurt if they kill Book. If done well, it could actually give this season a hell of a lot of punch.
A Tarka redemption would probably be the best for me, I think. Like, if we could see, like, Tarka, like, he's done some bad things, but then he proves to be good, but then he dies in the process of doing good. I think that would probably be the most satisfactory thing, because then I still get to keep Book, still get to see the fun Rillick/Burnham conflict moments, which I would like to talk on those in a minute, but I don't know if any of you have any other thoughts to add.
Well, I did wonder, they showed up 5 light years short of where they wanted to, and then they're like, okay, switch on the warp drive. I'm like, dude, just spore jump again.
They were like at the extent of the mycelium network.
Well, they said that they extended out another 5 light years. That's why they were going to jump 5 more light years than they did.
That was his estimate, wasn't it? At the beginning of the episode, Stamets thought they would get within 4 light years, and then in reality, they're like, "Oh, we only got within 9."
Right.
Yeah, I guess maybe he couldn't take it. I just thought it was kind of the imprecision of the area, but I guess you're saying the road literally ended. So
the barrier itself, and for those watching on YouTube, I apologize. I don't have any visuals because I'm on the road. I'm here in Florida with Starfleet Boy. I didn't have time to take screenshots, but the visuals are kind of drastically different from how the Galactic Barrier looked in the original series. Be it you're watching the original version or if you're watching the remastered. But either way, it used to just be like this big purple patch of space. But here, it does look a little bit more deadly. But they said this is kind of a thicker barrier. There's more negative energy here than they were expecting even. So
have they considered going above or below?
Yeah, I did have the reaction that
it goes all the way around though. Doesn't the Galactic Barrier is like a three-dimensional
It's just that when you're looking at it head on, it always looks a little it's like compressor wave. I want to ask,
that was just my cheap joke.
I thought it was odd that they went to the trouble of visually rebooting the barrier, but still made it look like you could fly above it or below it. It was like, if you're going to go to the trouble of rebooting it, why don't you fix that?
This is kind of like the horizon looks like a...
Actually, I think if they had shown like the ship just doing some maneuvers for whatever reason as it approached it, and you saw that it kind of rippled and from the perspective of the like the view screen on the bridge, rippled and sort of changed so that it was kind of always staying in front of them, and I think would have been a kind of a cool visual that would have worked right along with it, making it look it looks like a giant hula hoop around the galaxy. But yeah, like I got that it was representative of that. It doesn't need to. I don't need to see it literally filling the whole screen to kind of get the notion.
So no, I'm curious what you guys. What is your take on the implications of having the Galactic Barrier reintroduced into Star Trek, because it's been missing since TOS? Like it's kind of not been addressed.
They crossed it a couple times in the original series, didn't they? Because where No Man has gone before,
3 times I think they
go
went
through it, and then in by any other name with the Kelvins, when the Kelvins take over the ship, they take them through it, and then in the Medusan episode.
Yeah, sorry, the Medusan. In truth, is
yeah,
in
you'll
truth
never
no,
say it right.
Is
Wait,
there
just
in
stop,
truth
just stop. Is there in
So-
truth no beauty? I know there needs to be a comma in there, but yes, they crossed the barrier in there
In
when
there as
when
well, yeah.
Larry Maverick,
Right, he goes crazy.
whatever his name was, goes cuckoo.
I'm not a big fan of the Galactic Barrier as a concept, just since it doesn't exist in real life.
Yeah.
and
Right.
and it feels like a
Not that we
weird.
know of.
Right.
You probably
It
would
feels
have
like a
seen
weird.
it.
A weird bit of artifice, like a video game thing. Like you can't go to those areas yet
it
until
was
you get
created-
until you get the red key.
Yeah, it was created to be a device that turned Gary Mitchell into
Right.
a space god. For
And that's-
for
and I'm
one episode,
perfectly-
for the context of one episode.
Yeah.
I would have stopped referencing it and just said, "Oh yeah, Gary Mitchell got hit by a space anomaly or
Well,
whatever."
but
after
Dave,
that.
you also have to keep in mind the original series didn't worry a lot about continuity. They mentioned the Galactic Barrier twice after that. That's like the one thing they kept in continuity in the original series.
Yeah. The one thing they kept in was something they probably shouldn't have. They botched all this other continuity, but they absolutely hung on doggedly to this thing
Yes.
that was really dumb and should not have been carried on.
But
Hashtag don't take away my Galactic Barrier.
It's true.
That said, I love seeing it again just as a nerd boy. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's the Galactic
That is,
Barrier.
that is cool for on a nerd boy level. Yeah, it's like, oh, this thing I used to think about when I was 10 years old. I get to see it again now in 2022. So yeah, I get that too.
It might
I get
be-
the
that
reason
too.
the reason I don't like it is just that it's almost feels like anti-Trek, anti-exploration, that they haven't done more explorations outside the galaxy. Space is so vastly infinite that it's it feels a little like some weird video game barrier to say we have to be confined to this area. But
Well-
practically speaking, a single galaxy is also so large that it's practically infinite for our human understanding of exploration. So Trek has done pretty well with just a single galaxy. But I don't mind the barrier particularly either. It's a bit of lore that they hung on to. They made it cool looking. Let's see if they can make the aliens hiding behind the screen cool.
We're going to find out that the 10C built the barrier to
That's what I was gonna
protect
say.
the Milky Way from
Oh!
the killer Cthulhu robots.
That's
That
what I
would
was
blow
gonna
my
say.
mind if there's
That's what I was
some
gonna
deeper
say.
meaning to the
Yeah,
Galactic
very-
Barrier.
Yeah.
I'd sort of like that. I think if they could tie together 2 weak plot points,
And they're
Yeah,
going to
it would make it realistic. It would make
make
it make
them both
sense.
a little stronger. Actually,
Yeah.
And they built the Galactic Barrier shortly after Zephyr and Cochrane discovered warp drive, which is why scientists in the real present have never seen it.
There you
they're
go.
like, we've been trying to help you, but then
Nice.
but if they were trying to protect us, then why are they drilling?
And the other thing I want to talk about on our A story with the Discovery going through the barrier is the message they get right before they cross from Vance, who I'm like, you really should have just sent this in a very simple, basic text message, so it would be much less data that would be able to get through instead of making this long holographic speech about how the DMA from the 10C has changed targets, but we learned that the DMA is now coming to Earth and Titan and Navarre. They failed to mention also probably Andoria, or Andor, depending on who you are, and Teller Prime and other systems we know. That's actually a pretty popular...
We didn't get
patch
to see
of
the
science.
rest of the
Space,
message.
I
It
know
could have
the
been-
DMA
It could have been, and it'll take this many hours to hit Andoria, and this many hours to hit Teller, and this many hours to
I'd have to get out the star charts to see exactly what.
And you
what's
need
on
to
the
look at it
course, but-
three-dimensionally. To
I don't
do
know.
that.
I don't know the distances and stuff involved in Trek canon, but although I was like, isn't the DMA is like the size of a whole star system? Like Earth to Pluto, or
The
bigger.
actual
That was the
DMA
hyperfield.
I think they said it was the size of about a 3-planet distance, like about the distance from the sun to the Earth. So I think that's what
Okay,
they said.
so
It
that's
was
actually
that
like
big.
really
Yeah, an AU, yeah. Astronomical
quite
unit.
small compared to what I assume is the vast span between Navarre and Earth and all that. I was
Right.
not clear on how the DMA could threaten all of those at once when it's like like
No, I
any
think
one
the
of them.
gravity.
Gravitational waves
yeah.
that collects
Okay.
Yeah.
debris and smacks the debris.
You get that
Need
dark
much
matter
debris.
gravity.
Yeah.
I kind of groaned a little because that's their sir. It's on a direct heading for Earth moment.
Yeah.
And I'm
And we
very
predicted
familiar
that.
with the ultimately that it's like, well, we don't really care about how bad something is until it's on a direct heading for Earth.
Well,
But you know what I liked about that was that when they acknowledged that, like, the main character, Burnham, who normally when they do this, it's because, like, the main character is going to be like, oh my god, that's, like, where my mom lives. And we learn, oh, Burnham's mom is safe, but the president is the one who his mom and her partner
family,
and her family is the one that was in danger. So I kind of like that, and it kind of, made me sympathize with Relic as someone who I've enjoyed the character, but in real life I'm kind of critical I'm kind of critical against, like, these career politician figures. But yeah, I liked that moment. What I didn't like was Burnham's bonding moment with her, where she's like, well, you're still my president, and that means I have to support you. Because I'm like,
Hashtag my president.
yeah, like, you shouldn't support bad presidents.
My
Like, just because
president, right or
someone's a
wrong?
president doesn't mean
I
that
guess
you-
I
She's
don't
not a
see
bad
her
president,
as
though. I
a
don't
bad
think.
president.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I don't think she is.
No, I don't either, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like,
Father, he's going into
No.
Dune mode where he's like, don't trust any charismatic leader.
no, I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying, like, don't trust presidents on default. Like, if anything, be more skeptical of them.
Yeah, but I think Michael has butted heads with this president enough to say that any trust she lays out is
And we
not
don't need
default.
presidents. We don't like when she's like the crew needed to hear some comforting words from the president. I'm like, no, they didn't. Like we don't need
Well,
need
she
those
also says
people.
I needed to hear some comforting words.
Yeah.
Well,
And who else was? I mean, I guess Saru could have given her some comforting words. But
that's her neurosis. Don't put that on the rest of the crew.
I saw in our comments, by the way, that Cake is Eternal said, didn't they say like the DMA was 5 light years across?
I think that was, yeah.
Oh, could be totally wrong. That might be correct.
That would-
Kick is
That would
eternal.
make more sense. Although even 5 light years, I feel like is still just a drop in the bucket compared to
Well,
the breadth of the Alpha Quadrant. But
yeah, they make a deal that it creates these waves.
Right,
and
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
So the area of effect is much larger than the event itself. I can't help. I don't know if this is deliberate or not, but the idea that the destruction is going to hit both Vulcan or Navar.
Native inhabitants of Vulcan and Romulus. That's how you can remember it.
Navar.
Who pointed that? Was it Stress-Free
Yeah.
K? One of our viewers
Oh.
Yeah.
on YouTube
Oh.
pointed that out.
I didn't
Stress-Free,
realize you
if
were
that
just-
was you, let us know.
Yeah.
yeah, you just did an acronym there. That's pretty cool.
Or was it? I don't know. I'm sorry if that wasn't Stress-Free K. It might have been someone else.
I do remember hearing that, though, on the
A
chat
clever
or somewhere,
person.
yeah.
Maybe this cake is eternal. But anyways,
One of
Brian,
y'all
please
did it.
continue.
Thank you.
So parentheses, like a lot of our regulars are present today.
Your audience is really smart.
Oh yeah, they're all smart. They're all
Hell yeah.
geniuses.
Yes. Cosmic badasses. So the idea that the shockwave of the DMC is going to hit both Navar and Terra at the same time means that
I don't think
they said it was approximately 71 hours. That's not even 70 hours. They were confident about that 1 hour and added that digit. So that means this thing showed up pretty much equidistant from those 2 points. And the idea that right after that feels like a deliberate attack. These two planets, these two very important planets, it shows up equidistant,
If we took it
from both of them.
I guess the question is, what was their intent behind the line? Was their intent to just threaten multiple important places at once, or did they actually want us to sort of think about it on a strategic level? In which case, yeah, that's true.
Well, the fact that the timing
I
is
assume
the
they
same
did not
for-
want that, though.
Yeah, I mean, the timing being the same, basically, from a realistic point of view, makes it like this has got to be deliberate. Which then raises the question: if the 10C know enough about what's going galactic politics to know the significance of both Vulcan and Navar and Terra, then wouldn't they know enough about galactic politics to realize it wasn't Vulcan Navar or Terra that is responsible for blowing up their DMC?
That's the thing I was thinking of. Are the 10C targeting these planets, or is it just by coincidence these are the ones that they're hitting? That's a hell of a coincidence.
Yeah,
I feel like it will be a coincidence, and that the 10C aliens are. In some way, it is a version of Galactus. They are higher than us. They don't have petty grievances that we're thinking, or in some way think alien to how we think, and that they are not provoking us deliberately.
Yeah, I mean, it could be sloppy writing, making the time the same for both
Yeah,
of those planets.
it can go either way.
Yeah,
I wonder if there's
I didn't
any
read
way that
that.
they could stage it so that it's intended to be the 10C is like, this is ultimately a positive thing. Yes, millions will die, but we are trying to protect you from the
From this.
androids, this will galvanize this, or it will protect
somebody
you from this.
is going to do another burn with the boramite all over the galaxy, so we're cleaning it up, all that gunpowder all over the galaxy before someone sets it off.
Something like that. It'll keep entropy from happening, and the universe won't collapse at the end. Some big picture thing that's way beyond us.
I have to rewatch that scene because the way I read it is that like they projected that the course would, because he said Navarre then Earth, so I imagine that they somehow projected that it would hit Navarre and then go to Earth. So like, but I didn't get that it was going to be a same time deal.
My impression, certainly from watching it with a second time, was that it was going to hit at about the same time, which struck me.
I guess we'll see if they make a thing of it.
They did also
week.
say that it was bigger. Actually, they did say that the new DMA was bigger and
Yeah,
faster.
they said it would
yeah.
be more powerful.
More
they
powerful,
tried to
maybe,
attack
yeah,
it.
yeah.
They wouldn't be able to destroy
Yeah.
it the same way. So it sounds like this one is actually going to be more of a threat than the.
And that's one of those things that
The
could either be
last one.
deliberate, or it could be like,
But,
the body is sending out more cells to deal with the more aggressive and thing that happened to it, but it's not even a conscious thing from the 10C aliens. That's just an autopilot of their systems.
According to Cerulean Blue in our live audience, they said the debris on the outer edge of the DMA would begin to affect them around around the same time, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but hitting within an hour of each other
hit
is
both.
still statistically
Or was it more
unlikely.
like 71 hours is basically when it starts hitting important Alpha Quadrant stuff?
Kind of like when a hurricane's coming and the outer edge of the bands like start to affect you hours before.
Florida and Texas, of course, we're going to talk about hurricanes.
Yeah, it's true.
I drank a couple of those earlier.
You don't say.
A Category 5.
That sounds great. That sounds delicious.
But thanks. I got a lot of that question about the Great Barrier and the Galactic Barrier and the DMA. That's a lot to think about now.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting. We'll have to obviously revisit this in the next episode or two of Tex-Trek, because some of that will in some way be answered.
Answered, yeah.
Well, let's talk about the B story of this episode. We had a lot going on with Book, and we learned a lot about his a lot about Tarka's backstory.
Brokeback prison camp.
Brokeback prison camp. But yeah, we got those flashbacks to Tarka and Oros, his little alien
Pal.
buddy. Should we even speculate on this? Like, were they lovers or friends? Because I feel like this is going to be.
I think he was from Ryza, and there was absolutely some Jamaha Rome.
When the show makes a point of not showing what we would consider traditional intimate gestures, kissing or getting it on, then they have chosen to be deliberately ambiguous on it. And that means that they could be either intense platonic friends, they could both be asexual, and but you can still want the comfort of someone close to you. You can still form a deep connection, or they just didn't show it and wanted to leave it ambiguous.
In this, my joke, Jamaha Rome joking aside, I do tend to think they're probably just supposed to be friends, because I think it would almost be wrong-headed to not show them giving a kiss at some point.
It was awkward that they didn't show more, because they're like two dudes in prison cuddling each other in bed. It's like what else are we supposed to assume?
But no, here's the thing. Like, if we accept a future where the ideals of sort of in the present of kind of pushing away the toxic side of masculinity so that guys can have more open gestures, can be more touchy-feely as traditionally women are, then that would just be a completely acceptable thing in the future, just not something easy to do for somebody like Tarka or this guy, who both seem to be kind of closed-off scientists who are also terrified. But, yeah, they were just, they needed contact. It doesn't necessarily mean that they would have to be lovers.
Right. Like, Father, I should be able to braid your beard without any weird,
But like in other countries, like in Asia, like in Japan or Korea or China.
It's all
like,
cultural, right?
A lot, a lot
yeah.
of those countries, like boys will like sit
Hold
next to
hands
each
and
other on the couch while they're watching movies, and like stuff like they're more like cuddly with one another.
French men kiss each other on the lips.
Frodo and Sam did a lot of body hugging things. They spooned a lot. That's what I was looking at.
Spooned a lot.
I think it's wonderful that there's a discussion about this and that people are talking about it and wondering, because I agree with Dave that like it is kind of challenging our own sense of masculinity and like all that kind of stuff. I'm on the side of like I think they intentionally left it vague to kind of get this conversation going, but also I'm on the side of it doesn't really matter. Like I'm okay with them just being intimate friends. Now, it'll be interesting if we find out that it's more, but at the same time, if it never is more, it's still a beautiful relationship. I think they were both suffering from trauma. They both were isolated for so long. Like, we need that contact.
My issue with it is that I think that Star Trek might be accused of queer baiting.
That's right. Some folks brought that up. I heard that too, yeah.
It's saying that you're teasing to your queer audience that you have like a queer couple on screen, but then not actually confirming it.
Yeah, and also it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be interesting because like Star Trek also kills the gays like constantly. So
right,
like,
yeah.
But
Discovery, I know that was a thing until people started complaining about it, and then I was like, oh yeah, that actually happens a lot in a lot of shows.
But Discovery has broadly been as progressive on that front as any Trek has ever been. I guess the one question is like. And maybe they wanted to leave, ambiguity can have its virtues. But, like, Book could have said, he could have said, like, did you become lovers? Like, he could have asked him, and he could have said yes or no. He could have said we did or we didn't. He's like, what we had was more intimate than any lover I ever had, but we weren't lovers. He could have said those words, and so they, is it wrong to not define something just because the show that they're on does sometimes have a tradition of walking away from gay topics?
Good point. Great point.
Dave, you mentioned O'Brien earlier, though. I think you're thinking the same thing I thought with the episode. I believe it's called Hard Time, when O'Brien had all those memories installed in his brain of having the prison time with his
super messed
friend.
up. Yeah, great
but
episode.
I never read those as a romantic or sexual relationship. I always read those scenes as two friends, as like two people who bonded as friend to friend.
Fathering,
felt a little bit more.
Did they do any spooning on that episode?
Not quite spooning, but it was like very close. And like he would finish his equations on this side, and he would finish his equations.
Felt a little bit more.
It was math sex. They were
this felt more intimate. Well, use the word intimate.
Yeah,
this felt more intimate to me in my read of it. Which there's probably a spectrum of relationships. There's probably like a spectrum of intimacy.
I'll just say it. I think it all depends. Yeah, like last night on Starfleet Boy, Braxton brought up how like he feels free to hold hands with his platonic homosexual friends. Is like there's like a thing where he doesn't feel that comfort with his heterosexual friends. But I observed among the younger folks that these kinds of like boundaries or rules about what makes you masculine and feminine are starting to kind of blend and fade away. And I think that might be something that we're just, those of us who are older might not read so easily, but maybe the Discovery writers are like...
It's a mute talking point then.
Yeah.
The younger people don't care.
Yeah, they don't care, I guess, yeah.
But that gives a reason to potentially be ambiguous about it, if only because it might say take someone who's heterosexual but still has those hang-ups and get them thinking about it, right? Then there's a value in the ambiguity. But if it like was a directly homosexual relationship or even like asexual or something like that, it might be something they're like, oh, that's out of my purview. That's not where my headspace is. So ambiguity means it can be inclusive in that sense.
Or they're waiting for the big kiss when they're reunited, and that's when we'll all find out.
Maybe so.
Like...
It's clear he's the most important person in his life. Absolutely, because he's willing to start an intergalactic war. Maybe
he's willing to put a lot at stake to get back to this guy.
Well, that's something that occurred to me is Tarka is very similar to another mad scientist, Soren,
Soren,
who absolutely wants to get to heaven, space heaven.
We view that as more selfish, though, because it wasn't about anyone other than him.
Well, he
But
lost his
he
family,
talked-
and he was hoping to get his family back in the Nexus.
yeah,
yeah.
but his family
He knew it would be a
all gonna
fantasy, right?
Yeah,
I don't
they'd
know
be
if he did.
imaginary. Like he doesn't.
Oh, I guess,
he wouldn't
yeah.
care if he was
Yeah.
in there.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
but Soren has the excuse that he's literally become addicted to this drug that he was exposed to. Tarka was never actually exposed to space
the
heaven.
drug of love.
Yeah, but again,
I mean,
The magic to make the sanest man go mad.
it still feels to me that like I have more sympathy for Soren than I do for Tarka, because Tarka's endangering the whole galaxy just because my friend went off to someplace perfect and is having a wonderful time.
Bliss.
But I miss
In
them,
theory.
so I want to go there.
In theory, Oros is there. We don't
Yeah,
know.
but that is
Yeah.
clearly what he's the premise he's operating on as far
know-
as trying to get there. If he goes to the perfect place and the guy's not there, then, well, he's going to be like, well, I'm in a perfect place, but my guy, my baby boyfriend isn't here.
That
so-
perfect place is a universe that was completely assimilated by the Borg, so everyone's happy because they're all the same.
I wonder if I actually vaguely wondered, could this perfect place be the Nexus? Are they trying to beam into the
yeah,
Nexus?
I told
later?
you.
But
I don't think so.
I doubt
but
it.
it made me think of the same thing, Brian.
yeah.
I don't
know,
think that's
Harlan-
a wild conclusion.
I think
Harlan
they
Ellison's
should...
original. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just it was a stupid joke. I was gonna say they should steer the Nexus at the DMA and see what happens.
It's like that meme of that Japanese dude who's like, now they fight. Or let them
Yeah,
fight.
let
or
them-
whatever.
let them fight. Godzilla. No, I was going to mention what's the most famous TOS episode?
City on the Edge of Forever.
Forever.
City on the Edge of Forever. Harlan Ellison's original script had it that Kirk was going to be like, I will sacrifice all of the future in order to try to save this woman. And
No, it
Spock
was that
had to stop
he
him.
wouldn't. Like,
No,
yeah,
he
yeah,
was.
yeah.
He was going to do it in this script.
Yeah,
As
you're right,
shot,
you're
it was
right.
not. They changed it so that he was more dutiful and was like he stopped McCoy. But Harlan Ellison had the notion, and I think it's a potent
I
idea.
agree with Ellison on that one.
You do or don't?
I agree with Ellison on that
Well,
on that altercation. I
Sure.
agree with Ellison on
At
that.
the very least,
particular point.
it's a potent idea of how much I think in the throes of love one would be willing to do without maybe considering it rationally for one moment. Your instinct is to put aside everything else beside that. Now, arguably, Tarka has had a lot of time to contemplate this. He's still willing to sacrifice the universe. That does put him in a much more difficult area, I think. I don't know if I like them.
It ain't the heat of the moment like it was with
yeah.
Kirk.
But
Well,
I think that they want us to sympathize with him. The episode was filmed in a way that they want you to sympathize with him. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to address that this is actually it would still potentially be a very horrible thing to sacrifice all sentient life in your galaxy. Maybe.
That's why I feel like they should have gone the extra mile and just had them like confirm on screen, like, oh yeah, like these two dudes are madly in love, like they kiss each other, they do more with each other. Like I would have put it on screen. I would have confirmed.
But then still,
that.
like, it's the time passage. It's like, oh, but years have passed, and you're still ready to kill every man, woman, and child. Maybe, if to get to this person,
I
that's
would
horrible,
still accept
right?
it. I would still believe it.
He seems to. I think he also seems to. From my read on it is that he kept saying in the book, like, you're gonna be a hero, like when we do this,
Yeah.
like you're gonna save everyone. He seems to be one of these like optimistic, maybe a little.
He's
too
like, there's no chance it's not going to work.
And he keeps saying that, and you saw even when he was wrong, he was like, well, at least we have this new telemetry now. Now we got to go to, like he
seems to me like he does keep moving the goalpost.
Yeah.
Right, but like I think he's doing it. I think that's a good point, Sohail. That I feel like it's like almost something innate to him. It's subconscious. He's not like, oh, I am going to do this, because it makes me feel better about what I'm. I feel less guilt or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like he genuinely believes it. The way a narcissist genuinely believes all the
Right.
crazy shit that they do. It's crazy, but like that is just the operating system.
Yeah.
So in that
they
sense, I guess
they
that
can
does absolve him.
win the day. They can defeat the Yeah, because he's kind of blinded. He kind of puts blinders on. He's only focused.
I don't
on,
actually think he
his
puts them
goal.
on. I think the blinders are part of who he is.
Yeah. It feels to me like the save the galaxy concept is just kind of a justification he uses to make anything else he needs to do okay for getting his friend back.
But
He
we all
doesn't seem to
agree
be all about saving the galaxy at all.
Do we all agree that we like those scenes of him and his backstory of him in prison and I guess it is a little trite and played out, but the reveal that he was meant to betray this dude, but then he didn't. He actually had a change of heart.
I actually had to go and read your synopsis notes that you prepared for me to figure out what the heck was going on with Oros and Tarka and the Emerald Chain in that final reveal scene.
A lot happened fast, or a lot was spoken fast, and I was a little
subtitles on, and I was playing the scene and pausing it so I could carefully parse the subtitles, and I was still getting confused on the he and the who's and the says. No, I got it. Once I read your synopsis, I got it. But
let me just go over it.
Confused.
Yeah, let me go over it for anyone listening who might be confused. But Oros was imprisoned by the Emerald Chain to find a new alternative to dilithium.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Tarka was put in prison with him to secretly spy on Oros and figure out what he was actually working on. Oros was working on the transporter to another dimension that he called Kaialis, that would be like the perfect heaven dimension that he wanted to go to, and became such good friends with Tarka that Tarka, instead of betraying the guy and turning him in, was actually like, oh, I want to go live in heaven with you, my dear friend / maybe boyfriend, we don't know. And then when the Emerald Chain figured that out, they were going to go after Oros, but Tarka escaped, and Oros might have escaped. There was this big explosion. He might have used the energy of that planet to go and escape. He left behind that sign of the Greek letter Phi, which means the golden ratio. That's kind of like their bonding thing. So Tarka doesn't know. Maybe he's there in the heaven dimension, maybe he's not, but I want to go there to the heaven dimension, and that's the only thing I really care about.
Which makes him, if he's willing to go, even if his friend isn't there, it makes him even more like Soren. But okay, the one comment I had on a technical, 2 comments I had. One, I'm not sure how antimatter would repel negative energy. I would think antimatter and negative energy would interact.
Yeah, it was
I wish they said strange energies. I just wish they said strange energies.
It was programmable antimatter, so you could program it to repel.
I mean, but why not just use programmable matter? Because the traits of matter...
Because anti means negative if you don't want to think about it too much.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I was just nodding my head during a lot of that technobabble, okay. Yeah, sure.
Michelle Paradise wanted us to nod our heads.
Yeah, it was quibble.
The
other one, so is he trying to build a new type of FTL drive, or is he trying to build a synthetic dilithium? Or is what he was supposed to be doing for the Emerald?
I think that
either
an
alternative. Either one of those would be an alternative.
Because they talk about he has a warp reactor, so you're using an antimatter reactor you're going to build a non-antimatter reactor out of an antimatter reactor. But I guess if he's building synthetic dilithium or replacement dilithium, quad lithium,
I think either would be fine.
Then you would need an antimatter reactor to stick the dilithium in there and shoot it, the matter and antimatter in it and see if it works. So I suppose if that's what he's doing, I thought he was trying to build a different type of FTL drive, and I'm like, well, the problem isn't the drive. The problem is the power for the drive. So that doesn't actually, I don't know what you gain by building a different type of FTL drive unless perhaps it's vastly less power consumptive. It runs much, requires much less power.
You know what's cool about programmable matter and programmable antimatter is, like, before you just threw the matter and antimatter at each other, I guess, to create the reaction, right? But now you can do it at like a controlled rate,
level.
at a micro level, and you can do a controlled rate. So
it's probably safer now.
Yeah, it's probably safer as well. Yeah.
Anything else on the B story with the Tarka?
This made me still
Oros
feel
stuff?
that Tarka was originally supposed to be the guy in the hover chair from the previous season, whose name I've forgotten.
Aurelio. Yes.
Played by Kenneth
again,
Mitchell.
Who we
Who is
haven't seen yet.
supposed to show
There's
up,
supposed to be
yeah.
a mention of him or something creative that they're going to do.
Well,
with him.
there is a magical heavenly dimension that could be accessed, and that would be an interesting place to put him.
There's also a new planet we're going to next
Well,
week.
and it would also, like,
planet.
of course, super fit that, it sounds like the kind of dimension where, you might be able to break the bonds of earthly limitations like a wheelchair and things like that. And then he could do a voiceover. He could become pure energy, that kind of, it's... Trek has endless options there, and it does make it seem like, oh, maybe this was originally supposed to be Aurelio.
Yeah. Kenneth Mitchell, who is still booked to go on the Star Trek
Oh,
cruise.
wow.
I should see him tomorrow.
That's
Oh, wow.
fantastic.
Nice.
Maybe you can get the skinny on what's going on.
I do know that. I see that
Nothing.
one of our commenters mentioned his condition is pretty severe right now. I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of how he'll be doing, but that's very cool though. I know that seeing him at the previous convention was a very notable thing for you, Fathery.
Yeah, people should check out my Star Trek Las Vegas 2021 recap, which is available on YouTube.
Yeah,
Do
it
you
was
remember
super
what
good.
episode it is?
There wasn't an episode
Oh,
of the
they
podcast.
haven't never got
it was just the YouTube live stream, but it is there. But on that note, I guess we should talk about our C, D, E stories, whatever else is there. We have Saru, Tarina love story, and then Adira Stamets father-child, teenager, young adolescent story. I'm not sure what the...
That's a good description of it.
Okay.
You got it.
But yeah, so I don't know if anyone has anything to add. Let's do the Saru, Tarina. I've done that before. I've called them that.
It's
Taru.
Taru.
I think Serena. No, I'm gonna fight that. I'm gonna fight Taru. I think the name of the ship should be Serena. Everyone should comment and tell us what you think it should be. Is it Serena or Taru? But I think Serena is obviously. It rhymes with Sabrina, the teenaged witch.
That's true. It does.
And that's the clear criteria for shippers.
But
does it rhyme with a sitcom from the
But you can't say true love never ends. What is it? What's the expression?
I don't know.
True love.
I'm not on hashtag.
The course of
team
true. That's what it was. The course of true
Saru.
Love never did run smooth or whatever.
Smooth or something like that.
So I'm on hashtag team, like La Serena. See, we have the Star Trek connection.
Yes.
That
makes a little more sense than Sabrina the Teenage Witch. As supporting arguments go.
Okay.
Last week I think I was saying that I'm not super into the relationship. It reminds me a little bit of the kind of slow burn Geordie awkwardness and stuff.
You want Saru to just like be a man and just fuck her at this point, right?
It's actually not even that. What I want is like a scene that's a little bit more spicy or whatever, where they're like, I would rather it be less the awkward. Can he even ask her out, or
right. The will they, won't they?
I would rather see let's have them working together to, prep to get something done and like some interesting sparks flying. I want to see them get in an argument and then find out that they're actually, that they're kind of getting the hot for each other during the argument.
You want them to explore
more...
the relationship other than just tiptoe up to it.
I would say so, or tiptoe up in a way that's a little bit more unusual.
I agree with you.
I don't mind it conceptually though. It's just.
I feel like we within the context of this episode, we did like the her kind of brush him off, and then we did the her be more receptive.
Did she brush him off though? She just got called away.
Well, she totally ignored what he said. When
Yeah,
he was
you could have said something
Can we
like,
hang out as more than friends?
"Not actually interested. Gotta go."
I would feel
heartbreaking.
brushed off. I would feel brushed off if I was in his shoes.
Right. He said something. He's like, maybe we could be more than friends. But on the other hand, the stakes of the DMA are pretty high, and you might forgive her for not being
True.
receptive.
It's forgivable. But it's just I don't want to revert back to this.
Yeah.
Will they? Won't they? I feel like now, like when she said,
"Come and sit by me, you comfort me."
Yeah,
it was a confirmation that she has the same feeling.
Yeah, I find you a comforting presence. Yeah. I don't want to see them backpedal away from that. I want them. To me, I think it's more interesting if they go forward rather than backwards from that.
I think they will.
Brushing off went. I was like, if that was a human woman, I would say that was brushing off. But given that she's clearly had a lot of Vulcan training, Vulcans are all about expressing your emotions to yourself, but not to anybody else.
That's their standard aloofness.
Yeah. And then this aide shows up and is standing right there. It might just be Vulcan tradition that, if somebody walks into the room and you're flirting, you just stop and change the subject.
You know what I would have liked?
Absolutely.
You know what I would have liked?
Absolutely be a Vulcan thing.
So do you think that inside she was like, I feel pretty. You know what
I would have liked?
And Saru was like, I just met a girl named Tarina.
No, we know he was sexy. He talked to Colbert. And Colbert has it. It was a little too winky at the camera when he's like, oh yeah, like these connections are always awkward. Just hang in there, little buddy. You'll make it. You know, I felt that was like.
I did like the story of him and Stamets though. That was a cute little.
I did like that he framed it as his own personal experience. Yeah, like cool. Paul had those magnificent eyes and whatever.
I like that. What wasn't said that whatever beginnings Saru and Tarina might be struggling with. You know that any relationship involving Stamets has got to have been an awkward nightmare at the front end.
Well, I noticed that Colbert, didn't he say when he was like, he's throwing out compliments, but he also said, oh, those early days, he was so opinionated. Like, you can't help but, like, throw that in there, too. Obviously he was a pain in the ass, too.
Yeah. And we can all assume that with Paul Stamets.
Yeah. So
what I was going to say, what I'd like to have seen was... If she had said we'll have to talk later, Saru, and then she started to leave, and then she's like tells her aide, actually you go ahead, I'll be 5 minutes behind you, and then she goes back and she says I'm interested. Defy the expectations a little bit. I like that kind of dramatic.
That would have been considerate.
Yeah,
but I'll accept I'm sorry. I will accept what we got from a Vulcan character.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, it might just be that, she in a stressful situation, 100 different things on her plate, she just defaults to, of course we don't flirt in front of the other guy. We do this when we're alone, and so we'll revisit this conversation when we're alone.
You have to lower the bar of expectation of consideration.
When the aide walked up, she was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
It worked out for her. Honestly, like, give her kind of an out. Like, I can go think about this for a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. Right. That's true.
Yeah, she was right about to rip his clothes off, you see. And
yeah, she's like, I got to run the pro-con algorithm of the relationship.
I'm curious how far they'll push the intimacy. Like even just like seeing like the two of them kiss.
I would love to see
that. I bet we don't get that. I bet we don't get past hand holding.
Listen, Vulcan finger touching and stuff can be very.
We get that's true.
Finger touching is like third base if you're a Vulcan.
Yeah, I feel like we might get some...
I strongly predict Star Trek 3 finger stroking.
That would be, I think that's ideal.
I mean, this is
using the canon.
We could have naked people actually fucking on screen, and one of them be a Kelvin.
They only did that in season one time.
Have you guys noticed that Disco has taken a wholesome turn though? They hardly cuss anymore.
Yeah, they only drop F-bombs on Picard and nowhere else.
Yeah,
I miss it.
Yeah, bring back the F-bombs.
I don't want them getting naked every episode, but just enough to make us wonder: are they going to get naked? Is I think enough, to keep that possibility in the mix.
I want to see Saru putting his boots back on.
Like Kirk and Wink of an Eye, which we'll be discussing on Starfleet Boy in a couple of weeks.
I guess in relation to their relationship at the end where they kind of like, oh yeah, sure, we'll sit down and talk, because. I was like, dude, this has got to suck for those people who kind of identify as Romulan. This will be the second planet they've lost. So,
ooh, yeah.
Good point.
This is the second time this has happened.
Well,
if I were like one of the enemies, if I was one of the enemies of Romulus, I'd be like, can't you guys keep your planets from blowing up?
Yeah, there's like some Klingon somewhere, like laughing at them, like
the Klingons should not do that. Don't open that bottle, Klingons.
Well, the other thing to do,
You are not good with your planets either.
This thing shows up and sends out big gravitational waves. Those waves have launched. You can remove the volcano, but the tsunami is already en route. You got to, in order to save those planets, you have to find a way to stop the tsunami.
I bet
remove the DMC. The DMC
I bet 10C could do it.
Yeah.
I like that you
have some way
I like
to
that
do
I
you
it.
bet
call
they
it the
might set up-
DMC.
I bet they might set up just something like that, Brian, where it looks like it's inevitable without the help of these literal, perhaps Deus Ex Machina aliens. By the way,
Without
since
Run DMC.
It'll be like when V'ger's like whatever it was heading towards the Enterprise, and all of a sudden it disappears. It's like just like that. It's like
I mentioned last time that I thought an ideal situation might be for Book to end up using his kind of ability to commune as like being the interpreter essentially of these very alien aliens, and that would give. I mean, it would take him off the show at least for a time, but it would be a way to do that without killing off the character. And also, they sure did have been making a lot of points about communication in this episode.
Yeah, and opency and
it's sort of
transparency.
What's that?
And talking about like
Openness
communicating
and
like with like being
Yeah.
transparent. Like here when we got like Burnham being like, yeah, you should tell the crew what the stakes are.
Yeah, I wonder when they meet the 10C, will they say, hey, our conversation might have to kind of move along quickly because there's a faction of us trying to blow you up.
Also,
that
we'd
would
like
be
to get to the
transparent.
Yeah.
We would also like to get to the point where you save Terra and Navarre quickly.
Yeah. It's gonna be, but is it gonna be like explaining the concept of time to the prophets in the first DS9 episode?
It's like baseball. You have 9 innings.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to explain it fast though.
They're going to be like, okay, these guys don't understand linear time. What have we got? Baseball. It says here in the book, we just teach them about baseball, and they'll figure it out.
I love that Brian actually has like a book that has like acutogram stuff on it. That it looks like he was actually taking. It looks like he took out a tricorder.
Yeah. The tricorder's over there.
I believe
Of course it is. Of course it is.
One of several tricorders, no doubt.
Before we go into the Gorn egg section of the show, let me ask: does anyone have any thoughts on the Adira Stamets storyline? Other than I like having Adira back on the ship, and I guess we get a little bit of backstory for Stamets with him saying like his dad wasn't super sensitive or supportive. I guess I should say his dad wasn't super supportive, so he's extra supportive.
I thought that was cute. I think all those kinds of scenes I think I would like better if they hadn't been selling me on the stakes of current things. It feels a little weird that that's sort of the preoccupation in the middle of something so big. But I like dad instincts, and I like Stamets having dad instincts. So
Our ship might be destroyed. Our shields are down. That's okay, Captain. I'll send my teenager to repair them.
They're so skilled. Really, I think they could stop this kind of disaster.
Please give them an A on their report card.
You're saying he's a
helicopter. He's a
helicopter
dad.
parent.
It's better than endless gags about did you take the trash out yet?
Well, if we don't have any other thoughts on that, I guess I'll go ahead and hop.
I just want to say real quick that
so
it was cool to see Bryce get like a few more moments this season. Like he's been getting some.
You get his big send off, but does anyone care that Bryce is gone?
I don't think he's gone. I think he's going to come back. He's just working with Kovic, no?
It's like Bryce.
Maybe.
I think I remember that guy.
I'm afraid that was my reaction to it.
If anyone in the comment, if you're telling me that you're sad to lose Bryce, please also let us know your favorite top 3 Bryce moments of Star Trek Discovery.
I'll tell you what my top one is the one this season where he uses sonar to get the disco out of that one.
He did that, yeah. He's a good
he
communications
surfed
officer.
it. He surfed it.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, like Awoshikan and then like Detmer. Those characters are characters that have like kind of had some more serious screen time.
Okay.
I guess my final thought would be I'm really hoping Book, our show's resident Esper, gets hyper boosted with strange energy and gets superpowers when he hits the barrier.
Oh yeah, that's possible. Yeah, the barrier.
I kind of like that.
I don't think it's going to happen, because if that was some place they were going, they would have set it up in this episode with the comment that if the shields go down, our people with high Esper ratings could die or develop superpowers.
Get tinfoil eyes.
For everyone's sake, I hope Tarka doesn't get
Book could, though. Book has some kind of...
Yeah, Book's empathy, that kind of aligns more with the Esper powers. Right? So that would actually be cool if they...
Book goes to God mode.
Yeah, God Book. Because then you get, like, the weight of the galaxy like on his shoulder. Like, what does he do then with his God power?
Oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps.
There's potential there. There's potential there.
I think there is, but it's also, like, I always think, like, having a relationship for this poor Burnham with someone who's omnipotent suddenly sounds really bizarre, and
it won't be that. She's gonna have to kill him just like Kirk had to kill Mitchell. It's gonna
because
with a phaser rifle.
Mitchell had like I feel like Mitchell had like a little cruel streak that was a little bit innate to him.
That's true.
And I think Book does not have that. Book, I think, could keep it reined in.
Okay.
And I think that might be interesting to
Book
see.
more than Gary Mitchell.
I agree.
Yeah.
I suspect they would undo it if they were not going to kill Book by the end. But and I have this sad feeling. I don't think that's where we're going. I think we just wrote a better ending to the show than we're probably going to get.
Yeah, brace for sadness. No, we'll see.
Okay, yeah, we'll see.
Those aliens could have been like in another dimension, but they chose to have them outside the galaxy and do the Galactic Barrier. It feels like it might be there for more than just a fan wank.
It's just that they didn't mention it as setup in this episode, and that would have been the ideal place. Is right before they hit the barrier, they do a quick talk about
they don't want you
to go wrong.
They want to surprise people as best you can with that level of plot twist. I think that's a case where you maybe don't want to set it up.
I guess if you're going to do that, if you touch it, you turn into a god. That's usually the stuff that works better with a little foreshadowing rather than really that just came out of nowhere.
The foreshadowing was its mere existence as an episode. Star Trek fans do the rest.
Do we have any other final thoughts before going into the Gorn egg section of the show?
Nothing from me.
Nothing from me.
Okay. Well, these are the Gorn eggs we're going to hatch. These are the Easter eggs, in-jokes, and continuity connections I found in this episode that I thought were worth bringing up. And there's not many. I'll just say that, one, the title of the episode was the Galactic Barrier, which we've been talking all about throughout this segment of Tex-Trek. But yeah, that is the barrier that was first crossed in the first episode of Star Trek to have William Shatner in it as Captain Kirk.
Great episode if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, Where No Man Has Gone Before. It actually is one of the stronger episodes, in my opinion. It's a classic. It's a great little standalone science fiction tale. Go watch it. Love it. Gary Mitchell. Fantastic stuff. And Burnham also references the Next Generation episode that went out of the galaxy where no one has gone before, because she says in her speech, she's like, I'm sure you were all like me as kids. You dreamed of being in Starfleet and going where no one has gone before. That is the episode where the Traveler took the Enterprise D into another galaxy. So they would have crossed the barrier then as well.
Just in a way that didn't affect them.
And then the other Gorn egg I have is Kovich at the very beginning when he's in the room full of all those transporters that we have the Enterprise transporter, the TOS
communicators.
I'm sorry, communicators, not transporters. But you have the Enterprise communicator, you have the TOS communicator, you have the TOS Universal Translator,
right?
From the episode with the Changeling. Right?
Yeah, the
That's
Changeling.
The name of the episode that had Zephyr Cochrane in it before he was in Star Trek First Contact. But yeah, when they're doing all that stuff, he also says Vulcans monitored humans for a century.
Right.
And if you see the Enterprise episode Carbon Creek, way back in season 2 of Enterprise, you see Vulcans were actually monitoring humans for 100 years before making First Contact. So, yeah, so that's all I have for the Gorn eggs. But like always, we would love.
Well, and I guess the Galactic Barrier is a gigantic Gorn egg.
Well,
right?
I said that was the title of the episode.
That's right.
But as always, we want to hear what our audience, what people who watch Tex-Trek or listen to Tex-Trek, what you think about this episode of the Galactic Barrier. So please comment, message, email, whatever. Let me know on Twitter, on Facebook. Leave a comment on YouTube. Whatever you need to do, but let us know your thoughts on this. Next week, we will have an incredible episode of Tex-Trek with 2 episodes of Star Trek to talk about.
Wowzers.
And hosted by this gentleman here, Starfleet Boy. So yeah, we got the next Discovery. We're going to follow up on all of this stuff, but we're also going to have the return
Of Picard.
to Picard and his story, and also the return to Rios and Raffi and Seven of Nine
Everyone,
and
yeah.
Elnor and Soji and all of those people. So we haven't seen them in 2 years.
I know, it's
So
crazy.
I
It's
miss
wild.
them.
Probably want to drop a few lines about the audio drama, which I plan to start listening to.
Oh, right
Monday,
on.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we have that audio dramas out there to listen to now too.
It's getting some pretty good reviews from what I've seen.
But yeah, that's going to be it for this week. Next week, I think we'll be at the normal time of 7 p.m. Central.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not going to be the one.
That'll be the correct. That is
arranging
correct.
But okay, so if you watch us live, you can find us Friday, 7 p.m. Central. And of course, if you listen to us, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Until then, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.